Hey everyone, ready to jump into the world of virtual reality with us today?
Always ready.
We're doing a deep dive on the MetaQuest VR headset today.
Awesome.
We're going to be looking at one VR enthusiast's experience with it, kind of see if it lives up to all the hype.
And what's really cool here is we're looking at a blog post, someone's personal experience, not a sponsored review or anything like that.
Right, exactly. Someone who's really passionate about VR, giving us like their honest, unfiltered opinion.
Words and all.
Exactly. And one thing that stuck out to me was how much this reviewer was using the MetaQuest for PC VR.
Yeah, and that seems to be like where it really shines.
For sure.
I mean, this reviewer had even tried one of the old Oculus prototypes back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Those big clunky things.
Those were something
They
else.
said going from that to the MetaQuest, which is sleek, wireless, it's just night and day.
Huge leap forward. And speaking of wireless, this reviewer was blown away by how smooth everything ran, even with graphically intense games.
Yeah, they were playing stuff like Assetto Corsa, Formula One, those racing games.
Intense.
And they were using a pretty beefy graphics card, a 4070,
Okay, yeah, so top of the line.
but still no lag, even with just regular Wi-Fi.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it really shows how far things have come, both with, VR tech and wireless connections in general. But of course, we can't talk about VR without talking about, you know.
The VR sickness.
Yeah,
It's the make or break for a lot of people.
definitely.
And thankfully, our reviewer was really upfront about his experiences with it.
Good.
Said racing games were surprisingly comfortable, probably because you're sitting down.
Right. Makes sense.
But anything that required him to move around with the controllers, forget about it.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
He specifically mentioned the forest. He had to tap out after like 5 minutes because he felt so nauseous.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Different games, different movements. Everyone's going to have a different tolerance level for sure.
So it seems like with the VR sickness, it can be a real mixed bag.
Yeah, for sure.
Did our reviewer have any more thoughts on that?
He did actually. He tried out that Star Wars game.
Squadrons.
That's the one, yeah. And he said even though he did get some dizziness after a while, he actually found playing at night with the lights off helped.
Really? Why is that?
Well, if you remember earlier, we talked about how the reviewer mentioned the headset needing to be a little brighter, a little sharper. And it seems like that actually worked in his favor with this game in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it wasn't super bright, playing in a dim room actually made it more immersive because it was more like, how our eyes actually see in low light.
Well, that's so interesting how our brains kind of fill in the gaps like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
It just goes to show how the VR experience can be so subjective.
for sure.
What makes one person sick might be what makes the experience click for someone else.
Totally.
Yeah.
So who does he think the MetaQuest is really for then?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Right?
Yeah.
He actually made a really good point. It's not like a smartphone. It's not something you're going to be using to, navigate your day-to-day life.
For sure.
He actually compared it to buying a bread maker.
Okay.
Everyone's really excited about it at first. They use it a bunch, and then it just ends up sitting on the counter.
Yeah, I can see that.
And he said that's kind of what happens with VR. A lot of people, they get caught up in the hype, but they don't really know what they want to use it for.
That makes sense. I mean, it is a bit of an investment.
Yeah.
So is he saying, like, don't buy it?
Not necessarily, no.
Mm.
He actually had an interesting take on it. He said, think of it more like renting,
Okay.
Like you're trying it before you buy it. You get to see what it's all about. Dip your toe in the water. You might find you love it.
Yeah, I like that. Try before you buy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of diving in, our reviewer had some thoughts on, what makes VR, really worth it.
Yeah, go on.
He said it's all about having a purpose.
Yeah.
You need a reason to use it, not just because it's cool, but because it adds something to your life,
Yeah. Okay, I get that. So what are we talking about here? What kind of purpose?
Well, I mean, for one, our sim racing guy, this is right up his alley, right? This is
Yeah.
next level immersion for him.
Totally.
But it's not just about gaming, though. Imagine, architects.
Okay. Yeah.
They could walk clients through a virtual building
Whoa.
before they even lay a single brick.
That is cool.
Or think about surgeons practicing complex surgeries, but in VR.
It's like risk-free.
Totally.
Oh.
And that's why I think this guy's perspective is so valuable. He's making us think beyond just the hype.
Yeah.
What do we really want from this technology?
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about having the latest gadget, right?
Exactly.
It's about finding the things, the tools, the experiences that actually make our lives better, richer,
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive on the MetaQuest today, here's something to think about. If you could step into any virtual world, what would it be? What experience would make VR like really worth it for you? Would you explore the ocean depths, climb Mount Everest, maybe travel to another planet? Let us know because the possibilities are pretty much endless, right? Until next time, happy diving, everyone.